but I want to begin with two games that individually, I think there's takeaways for the winners, there's takeaways for the losers, but they are important because of how they are hooked together. Because Georgia 42, Florida 20, Tennessee 44, Kentucky 6. Georgia, the reigning national champion in college football, the number one team in the country, according to the AP Top 25, is going to host Tennessee, without a doubt, one of these stories of college football this year, if not the story in college football this year. We've got our superlatives coming up on Wednesday. When we're talking about team of the month, I'm not going to play spoiler, but I'll tell you who I think should be team of the month for the month of October. And they are wearing those colors, orange and white. So let's start with Georgia and Florida, but Tennessee and Kentucky, again, Tennessee 44, Kentucky 6, a dominant performance in a ranked-on-ranked matchup. For the Bulldogs against the Gators, I was on CBS Sports HQ for pregame, halftime, postgame. I felt like I was being negative. I felt like I was nitpicking. I wonder if I was just holding Georgia to too high of a standard. What was your read of the Bulldogs in this performance?
They killed them. They did on the scoreboard, and it was scoreboard domination, but they kind of played with their food in the third quarter. But they were up 28-3, and I think it's understandable that you would take your foot off the gas a little bit, up 28-3 potentially, because Florida is kind of inept. I did not watch the first half of this. I figured I would watch if it was close in the second half. Maybe I should watch the entire first half because CBS is my employer. But ultimately, it sounded like they weren't running Richardson much. You guys had eyes on this until later in the game because Danielson was making a big deal about it. He's like, oh, now they want to run Richardson. I mean, the game was never in doubt. It just, they were kind of sloppy.
They killed them. Like you said, it was 28-3 at halftime. In the third quarter, Tennessee puts together one drive. Okay. It is a 13-play, 75-yard drive. ETN scores to finish it off, makes it a 28-10 game. It was a nice drive. No taking it away. The best drive Florida had all day. Then Florida gets a short field, gets a field goal. Then there's a play with a breakdown in coverage, just a guy running free, gets a long 78-yard touchdown. And it made the game look close. It was a one-score game all of a sudden. But then as soon as it became a one-score game and Georgia was like, oh, okay, we got to play some more, they just marched right down the field, 78 yards, 6 plays, touchdown, game over again. Like, yeah, they played with their food. It's like an orca batting a seal around with its tail in the ocean for a while before it eats it. Maybe sometimes the seal gets away for a little bit, but it's going to get eaten eventually. So it really was, it was close. But
that's why I said I felt like I was nitpicking. I was not judging Georgia against Florida. I was judging Georgia against a standard that I think it's going to take to beat Tennessee, and 50% passing and 2 interceptions and anything not named Brock Bowers not really being all that effective kind of seemed like it's like, what's going to happen when you have to go maybe blow for blow with Tennessee? And we also dealt with, Nolan Smith with a shoulder injury, I believe it was. That's a linebacking crew that already has a lot of sophomores, a lot of young players that are in there. It is a defense that has already taken a couple of injuries. It was impossible for me to look at Georgia in this game. I acknowledge that in the competition itself, they dominated, but I was like, okay, we'll see. This is a team that to me looks vulnerable, even as they are the home team with Tennessee coming to town.
I disagree. I mean, I'm not saying Tennessee can't beat them. I just don't think Georgia looks vulnerable. Tennessee could beat Georgia. But I mean, Florida had an offensive success rate of 23% today. Like, they didn't do anything. It's just
Florida's not a good team.
No, I understand that, but I don't think that Georgia kind of taking the day off or just kind of taking its foot off the gas for a quarter means that they were looked vulnerable. I think it was just, oh, okay, they made a couple plays, and as soon as they were vulnerable, it was over because Georgia started playing football again. They were we talked about it all week. They went into full, all right, let's get ready for Tennessee mode. And Florida kind of made a game of it for a second because they did that a little too early. But as soon as they had to get their stuff together, they got their stuff together. Does that mean I think they're going to beat Tennessee? No. Doesn't mean I think they're going to lose to them because of that, though.
What did Tennessee beat Florida by? just that game was only about what 3 or 4 weeks ago now.
5 points, I think,
5
right?
points.
And Georgia's up 28-3 and wins by 22.
22.
Game's never really close. I don't know if they are vulnerable. I do wonder, like, how healthy will Nolan Smith be for the game? I think Chip brings up a great point there. How well does Georgia's pass rush get to Hendon Hooker if you don't have to blitz him, right? How well will the secondary hold up? But also, I mean, Kentucky had like 1 or 2 nice drives tonight on Tennessee, and I'm sure we'll transition as soon as Chip wants to on that. But, I mean, Tennessee's defense has looked pretty vulnerable, and Georgia moved the ball. Like, is Tennessee's defense that much better than Florida's? I have it as better, but I'm not sure that it's worlds better.
I
than
think
the Gators.
I think it's very good against the run. I still have some suspicions about it against the pass, and I don't think anything we saw today. Like, they played well tonight against Kentucky, and we'll get to that shortly, I'm sure. But Kentucky's offense stinks, so I don't really put a whole ton of faith in it.
I love Pete Helms in the chat. It's amazing.
Is he coming in with the Tom Pornelli? Is that his name?
No. He called me a smooth brain. He's under his own name.
Okay. What's up, Pete? Good to see you, bud. I just, I spent too much time watching this game, watching it too closely. So I'm glad that I was able to get back, because I'm looking for perfection. I'm looking for domination. I'm looking for the boom mother bleeper slow motion Kirby Smart sideline celebration, and it just, Stetson wasn't great. Not a great game for Bennett. I thought that Edwards was okay. I thought running the ball, they were okay. Playing with your food.
Edwards was okay. He averaged 9 yards a carry. That was just okay.
Yeah, it was just okay.
Okay.
You rip off a couple long. Just okay. Rip off a couple long runs. Okay. All right. Good enough.
So, like, how many long runs does he have to be good?
I just give it. This is an instant reaction, Tom. That was my reaction.
I'm just saying he had a 20-yard run, another 20-yard run, and a 22-yard run.
Yeah, that's how you start to stack them up.
I feel like if a quarter of your runs for 20 yards, that's pretty good.
We're doing okay. I said he was just okay.
All right.
Yeah. 239 yards on 40 attempts as a team. Sure. It was an okay day. It was okay. All right. So you mentioned that Tennessee game against Kentucky. So hilarious how quickly this game got sideways. This was, I did not get a lot of the end of this game. In fact, Bud Elliott even said on Twitter, where you can follow him at Bud Elliott 3, that the game had been moved to the iPad. I think that was at 27-6 after Hyatt had gotten loose again, maybe right after the turnover, where it's like, oh, well, here we go. This is going to be a problem. What went wrong for Kentucky, or what was Tennessee doing to make things so difficult?
I think a couple things. One, all week we talked about, can Tennessee be patient and execute underneath if Kentucky is able to sort of do that, because we were speculating that Kentucky would not allow just the bomb after the bomb after the bomb like it did last year, because Tennessee, I think, had four or five scores of 40 plus. And that's what Kentucky tried to do tonight. And Tennessee in the first half still hit them for 2 long shots, but they did make Tennessee show that they could be a patient physical team underneath, which I think is something that some other teams will probably try to do. So it's nice to know they kind of have that weapon in the quiver. Now, on the other hand, Tennessee did not allow a play of 25 plus in the period that I was checking. So I didn't look at the last 5 minutes of the game. It's garbage time to me anyway. It doesn't matter. Basically, they're like, hey, Kentucky, can you be patient? Can you be physical and execute consistently down the field without committing a penalty or getting a tackle for loss or being late on a throw that almost gets the hospital, or like the receivers hit to the hospital? And they couldn't. Right? Like, it was a nice job of defensive discipline and patience by Tennessee. And ultimately, I mean, Will Levis, he has a big arm, guys. Really big arm. Josh Allen type of arm, I guess. 16 of 27 for 98 and 3 picks. Not going to get it done. Kind of looked like he looked the same as he looked at Florida, right? Just against Florida, he had 1 bomb. and Kentucky had 2 pick sixes. So
really rough night for Will Levis.
Yeah.
16 of 27, 98 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, I don't think his offensive line did him a whole lot of favors, but I don't think he did himself a whole lot of favors with some of the throws and the decisions he was making. And I do think like it was what's kind of messed up for me. Like Kentucky's defense actually did a pretty good job on first down. Like Tennessee was in a lot of second and third and long kind of situations where they were getting put off schedule, but they went 5 of 12 on third down despite the average distance they needed to be 7.2 yards. And they were 0 for 3 on the third and long. So it's like second down, it seems to be when Tennessee was killing Kentucky in this one. And it's just the thing that stands out to me, though, for like, is Jalen Hyatt invisible? Because Tennessee ran the same play that it ran against Alabama like 20 times. It ran it like 20 times again tonight. And Jalen Hyatt just keeps getting left wide open down the sideline. The safety keeps following the slant inside and leaving a whole bunch of room. And now there's Jalen Hyatt catching 5 passes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, if I'm Georgia, I think I'm spending the week watching tape saying, if that guy goes to the outside, follow him.
I think you're muted.
boom, classic. All right.
Yeah.
On the first one,
hits.
on the first one, I'm really not sure what happened. On the second one, and they look kind of similar. I think when they did the little switch release, right? Not switch release. Excuse me. When they did a little swap pre-snap, I think Kentucky has to convert that to where they both have to carry vertically, and instead you have your number one defender just give the guy a little bump and continue to play sort of like a little like flat sag concept, which isn't going to work if you have 2 guys running at the same safety. So they basically just with a little pre-snap motion got Kentucky to play a 2-on-1, which is great in basketball and also great in football. If you're Tennessee, it's terrible if you are Kentucky, which basketball season is coming soon. Look, Tennessee's a pretty good team, guys. And that offense is nice. You have a very veteran dude running it in Hooker. And I thought Kentucky's defense actually had a pretty game effort tonight. It made him earn it for the most part, except for just kind of 2 mistake pitches. And he doesn't seem to miss those very often.
I mean, Kentucky is almost fully morphed into Iowa now, where its defense does as good of a job as you can ask for it against an elite offense, but there's no hope because they can't score points anyway.
Not to be a Kentucky podcast because they're about to be out of the top 25, I would assume. Are we sure this is the same offense they ran last year? Like, I know schematically, and they say it came from the same Rams, Sean McVay, Rams tree and all that stuff. It doesn't look like it to me. Like they don't look as smooth. I know they lost players on the O-line at receiver, but I don't know, man. Like the play caller they had in Cohen might have been a pretty important piece for that team, and now he's gone.
I mean, I think it looks the same simply because I've never really been a big fan of Sean McVay.
So you're not a fan of this offense, and therefore it's like, well, there you go. Of course, it's from the Sean McVay tree.
Yeah, but I think no, I don't. I feel like tonight, I don't know, like I don't think they did a very good job tonight in any department, but I also feel like they were in a bad spot because like this offensive line is bad, and we've talked about it a lot. It's a bad line. I know that we talked about it a little bit pre-show. They've got talent at the receiver position, but if you were to ask a non-Kentucky fan or a non-hardcore college football fan to name a Kentucky receiver, they'd probably have a really hard time doing it just because you don't hear a whole lot from them because they don't do a very good job of getting them the ball. Chris Rodriguez, I thought, did pretty well considering the situation that they were in. And they were also just like, when you're down multiple scores to Tennessee, you kind of only have one card you can play. You have to keep throwing. And that's just not really what Kentucky is built to do. And it put him in a bad situation. And that's, again, going back to it, if you consider Will Levis a first-round draft pick or one of the top QBs in the class, you would think he would be the kind of player that would be in I just got to drop back and throw situation. But when Kentucky gets put in that situation, he's not good and they're not good. And that really showed tonight.
Defensively, Kentucky was trying to take away the big play for a little bit. Tennessee could run the ball effectively. And then all of a sudden, when you try to stop that, big play.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when Tennessee's able to run the ball against you, you're done.
Screwed. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
fun.
Want to know real quickly in any game that Tennessee plays how it's going to go? Can they run the ball? You'll find out the rest after that. Anything else on Georgia, Florida, or Tennessee, Kentucky?
I'm really looking forward to that game.
It's gonna be a great game. Yeah.
3:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch it on CBS. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. It is guaranteed to be a 1-3 matchup according to the AP Top 25 poll. It might be a 1-2 according to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee.